The photo was never meant to be seen. The message was never meant to be sent. And the man who received it? He was never supposed to knock on her door. Alina Cross thought she was reclaiming her power with one reckless click. Instead, she opened a door to a world of danger, obsession, and a man who sees through every wall she's ever built. What starts as a mistake becomes a choice. What begins in fear becomes something she can't walk away from, even when staying might cost her everything. Stay with me until the end, hit that like button, and comment what city you're watching from so I can see how far this story travels. The bathroom mirror was unforgiving. Alina Cross stared at her reflection under the harsh fluorescent light. Mascara smudged beneath red-rimmed eyes, her hair a tangled mess from hours of crying into her pillow. 28 years old, and she looked like she'd aged a decade in a single night. The breakup wasn't just painful, it was humiliating. Lucas Hale hadn't just ended things. He'd done it in front of their friends at her birthday dinner, announcing to the table that he needed space to find himself before walking out with the waitress who'd been serving their appetizers. 3 years. 3 years of her life handed to a man who couldn't even wait until they got home to destroy her. Alina's phone sat on the sink counter, face up, taunting her with its silence. No apology text, no "I made a mistake" call. Nothing. Just the group chat blowing up with messages from friends who'd witnessed her public dismantling, their pity dripping through every word. "Are you okay? Do you need anything? He's such a jerk. You deserve better." She didn't want their sympathy. She wanted to feel something other than small, other than discarded, other than the pathetic girl who'd given everything to someone who valued her less than a stranger with a pretty smile. The wine bottle on the counter was half empty, or half full, depending on whether you were an optimist. Tonight, Alina was neither. She was just numb, floating in that dangerous space between reckless and broken, where bad decisions felt like the only way to prove she still existed. Her phone buzzed, another message in the group chat. She grabbed it, ready to mute the whole conversation, when she caught sight of herself in the mirror again. The silk robe she wore, the expensive one Lucas had bought her for Christmas, hung open, revealing the black lace underneath. Lingerie she'd purchased for an anniversary that would never come. Something shifted in her chest. Not sadness, not anger, something sharper. Screw this. The thought arrived fully formed, wrapped in wine-soaked defiance. If Lucas could walk away without a second glance, if he could make her feel invisible, then she'd remind herself, and him, that she was anything but. Alina adjusted the robe, letting it slip further off one shoulder. She angled her phone, capturing the curve of her collarbone, the shadow of lace, the defiant tilt of her chin. Nothing explicit. Just enough to say, "Look what you walked away from." Just enough to feel powerful again, even if only for a moment. She took the photo, looked at it, deleted it, took another. This one was better, mysterious, confident, the kind of image that belonged to a woman who knew her worth. Her thumb hovered over the screen. Send it to Lucas? No. That gave him too much power. Post it online? God, no. Her mother would have a heart attack. Then what? The wine made the decision feel simpler than it was. She'd send it to herself. Save it. Keep it as a reminder that she could still be that woman, bold, desirable, unbreakable. A private rebellion against the voice in her head that whispered she wasn't enough. Alina opened her messages, scrolling to find her own contact, her vision slightly blurred from tears and Cabernet. She attached the photo, hit send, and tossed the phone onto the counter. There. Done. A small victory and a night of defeat. She was reaching for the wine bottle when her phone buzzed again. The screen lit up with a message notification, but something was wrong. The contact name wasn't hers. It was a number she didn't recognize. Area code 917, New York. Her stomach dropped. Alina grabbed the phone with trembling hands, her breath catching as she opened the message thread. The photo was there, her photo, sent not to herself but to a complete stranger. And below it, a new message had already appeared. Unknown number. Interesting choice for a first impression. Who is this? No, 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 no! The words tumbled out in a whisper as panic flooded her system. She must have selected the wrong contact. Her fingers had been shaking, her vision blurry. One wrong tap and her private moment of defiance had become a public disaster. She typed quickly, her hands trembling. Alina, I'm so sorry. That was meant for someone else. Please delete it. The response came within seconds. Unknown number. I don't think you meant to send it to anyone, but I'm not complaining. Heat rushed to her face. Not embarrassment alone, but something darker. Anger. Who was this person? And why were they toying with her? Alina, please, I made a mistake. Just delete it and forget this happened. 3 dots appeared, indicating he was typing. They lingered for what felt like an eternity before the message came through. Unknown number. Everyone makes mistakes. Some are more interesting than others. What's your name? Her heart hammered against her ribs. She should block the number. End this before it became something worse. But a part of her, the same reckless part that had taken the photo in the first place, wanted to know who was on the other end, wanted to understand how this stranger could sound so calm, so controlled when she was falling apart. Alina, that's none of your business. Unknown number. Fair enough. Then let me ask a different question. Are you safe? The question caught her off guard. Not are you single? Or can I see more? But are you safe? As if he could sense through the pixels and silence that she was drowning. Alina, why do you care? Unknown number. Because someone who sends a photo like that to a stranger isn't doing it from a place of strength. They're doing it from a place of pain. I recognize the difference. Alina's breath hitched. She set the phone down, pressing her palms against the cool marble counter. This wasn't happening. This stranger, whoever he was, couldn't possibly read her that clearly through a single photo and a few text messages. But he had. Alina, you don't know anything about me. Unknown number. I know enough. I know you're hurt. I know you're trying to feel powerful again. And I know that whoever drove you to this moment doesn't deserve you. Tears pricked her eyes, hot and unwelcome. She blinked them back, her jaw tightening. Alina, stop. Unknown number. Stop what? Seeing you? I can't. You sent me a glimpse of something real, and now I'm curious. Alina, this conversation is over. She moved to block the number, her finger hovering over the screen, when another message appeared. Unknown number. Have dinner with me. Alina stared at the words, certain she'd misread them. Alina, excuse me? Unknown number. Dinner, tomorrow night, 7 p.m. I'll send a car. Alina, are you insane? I don't even know you. Unknown number. Then get to know me. You took a risk tonight. Take another one. Alina, no. Unknown number. Why not? Alina, because you're a stranger who could be anyone, a creep, a liar, dangerous. Unknown number. All true. Or I could be someone who sees you for exactly who you are and wants to know more. You won't find out unless you say yes. Her pulse thundered in her ears. This was crazy, reckless, the kind of decision that ended badly in every cautionary tale ever told. She should block him, delete the thread, pretend this night never happened. Alina, who are you? The response came immediately. Unknown number. My name is Ronan Voss, and tomorrow night you'll find out the rest. Alina didn't sleep. She lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, replaying the conversation in her mind. By 3 a.m., she'd convinced herself to block the number. By 4 a.m., she'd convinced herself he was probably a scammer. By 5 a.m., she'd typed his name into Google. The search results made her stomach flip. Ronan Voss wasn't just anyone. He was a fixture in New York's financial world. Investment portfolios, luxury real estate, private equity firms. Photos showed a man in his mid-30s, dark hair swept back, sharp jaw, eyes that seemed to cut through the camera lens. He appeared at charity galas, business summits, and exclusive events where tickets cost more than most people's rent. He was real, powerful, and completely out of her league, which made the whole thing more terrifying. Alina sat up, her phone clutched in both hands. She should block him. She would block him. This was insane. But as her thumb hovered over the button, another message appeared. Ronan Voss, still awake? Her breath caught. Alina, how did you know? Ronan Voss, because I am too, thinking about tomorrow. Alina, there is no tomorrow. I'm not coming. Ronan Voss, yes, you are. The certainty in those 3 words sent a shiver down her spine. Not threatening, not aggressive, just absolute, as if he could see a future she hadn't agreed to yet. Alina, you don't get to decide that, Ronan Voss. You're right, you do, but you'll say yes. Alina, why are you so sure? Ronan Voss, because you're still here, still talking to me. If you wanted this to end, it would have ended the moment you saw my first message. But you didn't block me. You searched my name, you're curious, and that curiosity will bring you to dinner. Alina's hands tightened around the phone. He was right, and that infuriated her. Alina, this is a bad idea. Ronan Voss, the best things usually are. Alina, I don't know you. Ronan Voss, dinner, 1 meal, public place. If you hate it, you never hear from me again. If you don't, we'll see where it goes. Her heart pounded against her ribs. Every rational part of her brain screamed no. But the part of her that had taken that photo, the part that was tired of being small and safe and invisible, whispered something different. What if? Alina, where? Ronan Voss, I'll text you the details in the morning. Wear something that makes you feel powerful. Alina, I haven't said yes. Ronan Voss, you just did. Good night, Alina. She stared at the screen, her name written by a stranger who somehow knew exactly how to unravel her. She should be terrified. She was terrified. But underneath the fear was something else, a spark of something she hadn't felt in years. Anticipation. The next day passed in a blur of second-guessing. Alina called in sick to work, unable to face her coworkers' sympathetic looks and whispered gossip about the breakup. She spent the morning pacing her apartment, convincing herself she wouldn't go, then pulling dresses out of her closet just in case. At noon, a message arrived. Ronan Voss, Aurelio, 7 p.m. The reservation is under my name. Aurelio, she knew the name. Everyone did. It was the kind of restaurant where reservations were made months in advance, where celebrities dined in private booths where the prices weren't listed on the menu because if you had to ask, you couldn't afford it. Alina, I can't afford to eat there. Ronan Voss, you're my guest. Everything is taken care of. Alina, that's not the point. Ronan Voss, then what is? She stared at the question, unsure how to answer. What was the point? That this felt too big, too fast, too impossible? That men like Ronan Voss didn't invite women like her to dinner at Aurelio? Alina, why me? The response took longer this time. Ronan Voss, because in a single photo, you showed me more truth than most people reveal in a lifetime. That's rare. And I want to know what else you're hiding. Alina's chest tightened. She set the phone down, pressing her hands against her face. This was insane. She didn't do things like this. She didn't go to dinner with strangers, didn't trust men who spoke in riddles and certainties. But Lucas had been safe, predictable, and he'd left her in pieces. Maybe it was time to stop being safe. At 6 p.m., she stood in front of her mirror, smoothing down the black dress she'd chosen. Simple, elegant, with just enough edge to match the version of herself she wanted to be tonight. Her hands trembled as she applied lipstick, her mind racing with 1,000 reasons to cancel. Then her phone buzzed. Ronan Voss. The car is waiting downstairs. Her heart stopped. What? She rushed to the window, pulling back the curtain. Sure enough, a black town car idled at the curb below, sleek and expensive, completely out of place on her modest street. Alina, you sent a car to my apartment. How do you know where I live? Ronan Voss. You're not the only one who can use Google. Are you coming down or should I come up? Panic flared in her chest. He wouldn't. Would he? Alina, don't you dare. Ronan Voss. Then don't keep me waiting. She grabbed her purse, her mind screaming at her to stay inside, lock the door, block his number, and pretend this whole thing never happened. But her feet carried her to the elevator, then through the lobby, then out into the cool evening air where the driver stood waiting, holding the door open. Miss Cross, he said with a polite nod. She hesitated, every instinct telling her to run. But the driver's expression was patient, professional, entirely unthreatening. And somewhere in the back of her mind, that reckless voice whispered again, what if? Alina slid into the back seat, and the door closed behind her with a soft, final click. What? Aurelio was everything she'd imagined and more. Warm lighting, soft music, tables spaced far enough apart to create the illusion of privacy. The host greeted her by name, leading her through the restaurant with the kind of deference reserved for people who mattered. Ronan Voss was already seated. He rose as she approached, and the photos hadn't done him justice. Tall, broad-shouldered, dressed in a perfectly tailored suit that probably cost more than her rent. But it was his eyes that stopped her, dark, intelligent, and fixed on her with an intensity that made her breath catch. Alina. Her name sounded different in his voice. Not casual, not familiar. Something else entirely. Ronan! She forced herself to stay calm, to ignore the way her pulse spiked as he pulled out her chair. You came, he said, settling back into his seat across from her. I'm still deciding if that was a mistake. A faint smile tugged at the corner of his mouth. Fair enough. The waiter appeared, offering wine, but Alina shook her head. She needed to stay sharp, in control. Ronan ordered sparkling water for both of them, his attention never leaving her face. You're nervous, he observed. I'm sitting across from a stranger who somehow found my address and sent a car to pick me up. Nervous seems reasonable. True, but you're here anyway. Curiosity, she said. Not trust. I'll take it. He leaned back, studying her with that same unnerving intensity. Tell me about the photo. Heat rushed to her cheeks. No. Why not? Because it's humiliating. There's nothing humiliating about being human, Alina, about feeling pain and wanting to fight back against it. She looked down at the table, her jaw tight. You don't know what you're talking about. Then tell me. Why do you care? Because you interest me. You don't even know me. Not yet. His gaze didn't waver. But I want to. Alina met his eyes, searching for the game, the angle, the trap. But all she found was honesty, blunt, unfiltered, and far more dangerous than any lie. My boyfriend dumped me, she said finally, the words bitter on her tongue. Publicly. At my birthday dinner, in front of everyone I care about. I went home, drank too much wine, and did something stupid to feel less invisible. Ronan's expression didn't change, but something shifted in his eyes. Not pity, something sharper. His loss, he said simply. You don't know that. I do. He leaned forward, his voice dropping. Because any man who could walk away from you is either a fool or a coward. Probably both. The words landed like a physical touch, unexpected and undeniable. Alina's throat tightened. You don't know me well enough to say that. I know enough. His gaze held hers. I know you took a risk tonight. I know you're scared. And I know you're here anyway, which tells me more about your strength than anything else could. She wanted to look away, to deflect, to hide behind sarcasm or indifference. But something in his voice made that impossible. Why did you ask me here, Ronan? Because I wanted to meet the woman who could bare her soul in a single photo, and because I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since the moment that message came through. That's insane. You don't know anything about me. Then let me learn. The waiter returned, and the conversation shifted to safer ground. Food, wine, the city. But underneath it all, the tension remained, coiling tighter with every glance, every carefully chosen word. Ronan was unlike anyone she'd ever met. He didn't fill silences with empty chatter. He listened, truly listened, as if every word she spoke mattered. And when he spoke, it was with a precision that felt intentional, calculated, yet somehow still genuine. What do you do? She asked, trying to ground the conversation in something concrete. Investments, real estate, businesses that need restructuring. That's vague. It's accurate. And evasive. His smile returned, faint but real. I buy things that are broken and make them valuable again. Things or people? Both, if they'll let me. A chill ran down her spine, but not from fear, from recognition. Because she was broken, wasn't she? Shattered by Lucas, by her own insecurities, by the weight of feeling like she'd never be enough. And Ronan saw it. All of it. I'm not a project, she said quietly. I never said you were. He leaned forward, his voice steady. But I think you've spent so long letting other people define your worth that you've forgotten how to see it yourself. And I'd like to remind you. Tears pricked her eyes, unbidden and unwelcome. She blinked them back, her hands tightening around her water glass. Why? Because you deserve it. The simplicity of the statement broke something loose inside her, not all at once, but enough to crack the walls she'd built. Dinner continued and the conversation flowed easier. Ronan asked about her work, graphic design for a small firm, and listened as she talked about projects she'd loved and clients who'd driven her crazy. He asked about her photography, the hobby she'd abandoned years ago, and something in his expression shifted when she admitted she missed it. "Why did you stop?" he asked. "Because Lucas said it was a waste of time, that I should focus on my career. And you listened." I thought he was right. He wasn't. The certainty in his voice left no room for argument. By the time dessert arrived, Alina realized she'd been talking for over an hour. About herself, about her dreams, about things she hadn't shared with anyone in years. And Ronan had listened to every word, his attention never wavering. "Your turn," she said finally. "Tell me about you. What do you want to know?" "Everything. You know my entire life story now. It's only fair." He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "My life isn't as interesting as you think." "I doubt that. I grew up in Brooklyn, worked my way through school, built my company from nothing, and now I spend most of my time fixing other people's mistakes." That's the Wikipedia version. I want the real one. His jaw tightened just slightly. The real version isn't dinner conversation. Why not? Because it involves choices I'm not proud of, risks that didn't always pay off, and a past I'd rather leave behind. Alina studied him, seeing for the first time the cracks beneath the polished surface. Ronan Voss wasn't just powerful. He was guarded, and that made him far more human than she'd expected. "Everyone has a past," she said softly. "It doesn't define who you are now." "Doesn't it?" "Not unless you let it." Something flickered in his eyes, surprise, maybe, or recognition. He reached across the table, his hand covering hers. The touch was warm, deliberate, and it sent electricity racing up her arm. "You're not what I expected," he said. "Neither are you." "Good." They sat like that for a moment, the restaurant fading into background noise. And for the first time since Lucas had walked away, Alina felt seen. Not as someone's girlfriend, not as someone's failure, just as herself. The car ride home was quiet. Ronan sat beside her in the back seat, close enough that she could feel the heat radiating from his body, but not touching. The city lights blurred past the windows, and Alina's mind raced with everything that had happened, everything he'd said. "Thank you," she said finally. "For tonight." "You don't need to thank me." "I do. I almost didn't come." "I know." He turned to look at her, his expression unreadable. "But you did. That took courage." "Or stupidity. Sometimes they're the same thing." The car pulled up in front of her building, and the driver cut the engine. Alina reached for the door handle, but Ronan's voice stopped her. "Alina." She turned back, her breath catching at the intensity in his gaze. "This doesn't have to end here," he said. "I know." "Do you want it to?" The question hung in the air between them, weighted with possibility and danger in equal measure. She should say yes, should walk away before this became something she couldn't control. But the truth was, she didn't want to, not yet. "No," she whispered. A slow smile spread across his face, and he reached out, tucking a strand of hair behind her ear. The gesture was gentle, intimate, and it made her heart race. "Good," he said. "Because neither do I." He leaned in, and for a moment she thought he might kiss her. But instead, his lips brushed her temple, soft, controlled, deliberate. "Good night, Alina." She stepped out of the car, her legs unsteady, her mind spinning. The driver pulled away and she stood on the sidewalk, watching the taillights disappear into the night. Her phone buzzed. Ronan Voss. "Sleep well. I'll see you soon." Alina looked up at her apartment building, then back at her phone. She'd gone to dinner with a stranger. She'd let him into her life, her thoughts, her carefully guarded vulnerabilities. And the terrifying part? She wanted to do it again. The next morning, flowers arrived at her office. A massive bouquet of white roses, elegant and understated, with a card that read simply, "Thank you for taking the risk. R." Her coworkers stared, whispering among themselves, but Alina barely heard them. She pulled out her phone, her hands trembling. "Alina, the flowers are too much." Ronan Voss. "They're not enough." Alina. "Ronan." Ronan Voss. "Dinner, tonight. My place this time." Her heart stopped. Alina. "That's moving fast." Ronan Voss. "We don't have to move at all, but I'd like to cook for you. Show you something real." Alina. "Your place feels intimate." Ronan Voss. "It is. But so was last night, and you trusted me then." She bit her lip, her mind at war with itself. Going to his apartment was different, dangerous. It crossed a line she wasn't sure she was ready to cross. But the memory of his voice, his touch, the way he'd looked at her like she was the only person in the room, it made her want to be reckless again. Alina. "What time?" Ronan Voss. 7. "I'll send the address." Alina. "No car this time. I'll take a cab." Ronan Voss. "Fair enough. I'll be waiting." Alina set down her phone, her pulse racing. She was doing this, actually doing this. And whether it was courage or stupidity, she couldn't bring herself to care. Ronan's apartment was in Tribeca, on the top floor of a building that screamed wealth and exclusivity. The doorman greeted her by name, directing her to a private elevator that required a key to operate. When the doors opened directly into his penthouse, Alina's breath caught. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city, the skyline glittering like scattered diamonds. The space was modern, minimalist, with clean lines and dark wood. Everything about it screamed control, precision, power. Ronan stood in the kitchen, sleeves rolled up, a faint smile on his face as he looked up from the stove. "You came," he said. "You sound surprised." "Not surprised. Grateful." He moved toward her, and Alina's heart hammered in her chest. He looked different here, less polished, more human. The suit jacket was gone, replaced by a simple white shirt that clung to his shoulders in a way that made her mouth go dry. "This place is incredible," she said, trying to focus on something other than the way he was looking at her. "It's home." He gestured toward the windows. "Come see the view." She followed him, and the city spread out before them, vast and endless. For a moment, they stood in silence, and Alina felt the weight of the world fall away. "I'm making pasta," Ronan said, breaking the quiet. "Nothing fancy? I hope that's okay." "It's perfect." She followed him back to the kitchen, watching as he moved with the same precision he brought to everything else. He handed her a glass of wine, and she sipped it slowly, her nerves settling into something warmer. "Can I help?" she asked. "You can keep me company." They fell into an easy rhythm, Ronan cooking, Alina asking questions, the conversation flowing as naturally as it had the night before. He told her about his first apartment, a cramped studio in Brooklyn where the heat barely worked. She told him about her childhood in Vermont, the small town where everyone knew everyone's business. And slowly, the walls between them came down. Dinner was simple but delicious, and they ate at the island, their knees brushing beneath the counter. Ronan poured more wine, and Alina felt herself relaxing, the tension of the past few days melting away. "Why me?" she asked again, the question she couldn't stop asking. Ronan set down his glass, his gaze steady. "Because you're real. In a world full of people pretending to be something they're not, you showed me the truth, even if you didn't mean to. That photo was a mistake. Maybe, but it led you here. And I don't think that's a mistake at all." Her chest tightened, and she looked away, unable to hold his gaze. "I don't know what I'm doing," she admitted. It scares me." "Good." He reached out, tilting her chin up so she had to meet his eyes. "If it didn't scare you, it wouldn't mean anything." His thumb brushed her jaw, and the world narrowed to just the two of them. Alina's breath hitched, and she saw the question in his eyes before he spoke. "Can I kiss you?" The words hung in the air, and Alina realized she'd been waiting for them since the moment she walked in. "Yes." Ronan closed the distance, his lips capturing hers in a kiss that was both gentle and consuming. His hand cupped her face, and she leaned into him, her fingers curling into his shirt as the world fell away. When they finally pulled apart, her heart was racing, her breath unsteady. "Stay," he whispered against her lips. And for the first time in her life, Alina didn't hesitate. "Okay." Alina woke to sunlight streaming through unfamiliar windows and the scent of coffee drifting from somewhere beyond the bedroom door. For a disorienting moment, she couldn't remember where she was. Then the events of the previous night came rushing back. The kiss, the way Ronan's hands had tangled in her hair, the decision to stay that had felt both terrifying and inevitable. She sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, her heart racing as reality settled in. She'd spent the night at a stranger's apartment. Well, not a complete stranger anymore, but still someone she'd known for less than 48 hours. The rational part of her brain screamed that this was reckless, dangerous, exactly the kind of behavior that led to cautionary tales. But the rest of her, the part that had felt more alive in 2 days than in 3 years with Lucas, whispered something different. The bedroom door opened and Ronan appeared carrying 2 mugs of coffee. He was already dressed in dark slacks and a crisp white shirt, looking annoyingly put together for someone who'd been up as late as she had. "Good morning," he said, his voice warm but controlled, that same careful tone he seemed to use for everything. "Morning." Alina accepted the coffee, grateful for something to do with her hands. "What time is it?" "Almost 9. I let you sleep." "I should probably go. I have work. I called your office. Told them you were feeling unwell and wouldn't be in today." Her head snapped up. "You did what?" "Relax. I didn't identify myself. Just said I was calling on your behalf." He sat on the edge of the bed, close enough that she could smell his cologne. "You needed rest, and I wanted you to stay." Alina didn't know whether to be angry or touched. "You can't just make decisions for me, Ronan." "You're right. I apologize." But he didn't look particularly sorry. "Will you stay anyway?" She should say no. Should gather her things, call a cab, and put some distance between herself and whatever this was becoming. But the coffee was perfect, exactly the right amount of cream, and the way he looked at her made her feel like the most important person in the world. "One condition," she said finally. "What's that?" "You tell me something real, about you, not the sanitized version you give at dinner parties." Ronan's expression shifted, something guarded sliding behind his eyes. He stood, walking to the window, his back to her as he looked out over the city. "What do you want to know?" "Why you really do what you do, buying broken things and fixing them. There's a story there." Silence stretched between them, and Alina wondered if she'd pushed too hard. Then Ronan spoke, his voice quieter than she'd ever heard it. "My father lost everything when I was 16. Bad investments, worse decisions, and partners who took advantage of his trust. We went from comfortable to destitute in less than a year." He paused, his shoulders tight. "He killed himself 6 months later. Left a note saying he couldn't live with the failure." Alina's chest constricted. "Ronan, I'm sorry." "Don't be. It taught me everything I needed to know. That trust is a weakness. That people will take everything you have if you let them. And that the only way to survive is to be smarter, harder, and more ruthless than everyone else." He turned back to face her, and the vulnerability she'd glimpsed was gone, replaced by that familiar control. "So yes, I fix broken things, because I know what it's like to be shattered, and I make sure I'm never in that position again." Alina set down her coffee, her throat tight. "Is that why you're alone?" "Who says I'm alone?" "This apartment. It's beautiful, but it's empty. No photos. No personal touches. It's like a hotel room where someone's staying temporarily." His jaw tightened. "Maybe that's intentional. Or maybe you're so afraid of being broken again that you don't let anyone close enough to matter." The words hung in the air, sharper than she'd intended. Ronan stared at her, and for a moment she thought he might ask her to leave. Then something in his expression cracked. "You see too much," he said quietly. "So do you. That's why we're here." He crossed back to the bed, sitting beside her, his hand finding hers. "I don't know how to do this, Alina. The casual thing, the slow build. I see what I want, and I take it." "And what do you want?" His gaze locked onto hers, intense and unwavering. "You. But not just for a night. Not just until the novelty wears off. I want all of it." Her breath caught. "That's insane. You barely know me." I know enough. I know you're stronger than you think. I know you hide behind insecurities that have no basis in reality. And I know that when you let yourself be real, you're the most captivating person I've ever met. Ronan, I'm not asking you to decide right now, but I need you to understand what this is. I don't do halfway. If you're in, you're all in, and so am I. Alina's heart hammered against her ribs. This was too much, too fast, too intense. But looking into his eyes, seeing the raw honesty there, she couldn't bring herself to run. I'm scared, she whispered. Good. So am I. He lifted her hand, pressing a kiss to her knuckles. But I'd rather be scared with you than safe without you. The declaration should have sent her fleeing. Instead, it anchored her. Okay, she said, the word barely audible. Okay? I'm in. Whatever this is, I'm in. The smile that spread across Ronan's face was genuine, unguarded, and it transformed him completely. He pulled her close, and she melted into him, breathing in his scent, feeling the steady beat of his heart against her cheek. For the first time in longer than she could remember, Alina felt safe. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of stolen moments and late-night conversations. Ronan had business to attend to, meetings, calls, the endless machinery of his empire. But he made time for her in ways that felt both extravagant and intimate. Dinners at restaurants where chefs prepared meals just for them. Walks through the city at midnight when the streets were empty. Mornings in his apartment where they talked about everything and nothing until the sun climbed high enough to demand they face the world. Alina's friends noticed the change immediately. She'd stopped responding to their concerned messages about Lucas, stopped attending the group hangouts where everyone would inevitably ask if she was okay. Instead, she existed in this new bubble where only Ronan mattered. You're glowing, her best friend Maya said when they finally met for coffee 2 weeks later. Who is he? Who says there's a he? Maya raised an eyebrow. Please, you've been MIA for 14 days. You're wearing a dress that costs more than your rent, and you can't stop smiling. Spill. Alina hesitated, her fingers wrapping around her cup. His name is Ronan. We met unexpectedly. Unexpectedly how? It's complicated. Everything about you lately is complicated. Maya leaned forward, her expression shifting from curious to concerned. Are you sure you're okay? I mean, you just got out of a 3-year relationship, jumping into something new? I'm not jumping, I'm choosing. Alina met her friend's gaze. Lucas made me feel small, invisible, like I had to shrink myself to fit into his life. Ronan makes me feel seen. That's great, but be careful. You're vulnerable right now, and guys can sense that. He's not like that. They never are. Until they are. Maya's voice softened. I just don't want to see you get hurt again. Alina wanted to argue, to defend Ronan and this fragile thing they were building, but part of her recognized the truth in Maya's concern. She was vulnerable, and Ronan was intense in ways that should probably worry her. But when her phone buzzed with a message from him, just a simple thinking of you, all her doubts dissolved. That night, Ronan took her to an art gallery opening in Chelsea. The space was packed with New York's elite, people who moved through the world with the kind of confidence that came from never having to worry about money or status. Alina felt out of place immediately, her dress suddenly too simple, her background too ordinary. But Ronan's hand settled on the small of her back, grounding her. You look stunning, he murmured against her ear. I feel like an imposter. You're not. You belong here as much as anyone. A woman approached, impossibly tall and elegant, her smile sharp as glass. Ronan, it's been too long. Victoria. His voice was polite but distant. Good to see you. Victoria's gaze slid to Alina, assessing and dismissive in the same glance. And who's this? Alina Cross. Alina, this is Victoria Marchand. We've done business together. How lovely. Victoria's smile didn't reach her eyes. Ronan has such interesting taste in companions, always so unexpected. The condescension dripped from every word, and Alina felt heat rise to her cheeks. But before she could respond, Ronan's hand tightened on her back. If you'll excuse us, Victoria, we were just leaving. He guided Alina toward the exit, his jaw tight. Once they were outside, he stopped, turning to face her. I'm sorry about that. Who was she? Someone I used to know. It doesn't matter. She looked at me like I was nothing. Then she's a fool. Ronan cupped her face, his thumbs brushing her cheeks. You are everything. The words should have felt like too much, but they didn't. They felt like truth. Take me home, Alina whispered. Your place or mine? Yours, always yours. The next morning, Alina woke to find Ronan already gone, a note on the pillow beside her. Had to handle something urgent. Make yourself at home. I'll be back by noon. She stretched, smiling at the simple intimacy of waking up in his space. The apartment felt different in daylight, less intimidating, more welcoming. She wandered through the rooms, noting small details she'd missed before. A bookshelf filled with first editions, a framed photograph of a Brooklyn street, old and faded, a single plant on the windowsill, carefully tended. In the kitchen, she found the coffee maker already programmed, a mug waiting beside it with her name written on a sticky note. The gesture was so thoughtful it made her chest ache. Her phone buzzed with a call from an unknown number. She answered hesitantly. Alina Cross? Yes? This is Detective Sarah Chen with the NYPD. I'd like to ask you a few questions about Ronan Voss. Alina's stomach dropped. What? Why? Just routine inquiries. Mr. Voss has been connected to some business dealings we're investigating. I understand you've been spending time with him. Yes, but I don't know anything about his business. I'm sure you don't, but I'd still like to speak with you. Are you available to come down to the station? Panic clawed at Alina's throat. Am I in trouble? Not at all. We just want to ask a few questions, completely voluntary. The word voluntary did nothing to ease her nerves. Can I call you back? Of course, but sooner is better than later. Detective Chen rattled off a number, and Alina scribbled it down with shaking hands. When the call ended, she stood frozen in Ronan's kitchen, her mind racing. Police, investigations, business dealings. What had she walked into? Her phone rang again. Ronan this time. Hey, she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. I just got a call from my lawyer. The police contacted you. You knew? I know everything that happens in my world. Are you okay? I don't know. What's going on, Ronan? What are they investigating? Silence stretched across the line, heavy and ominous. Then Ronan spoke, his voice carefully controlled. I need you to trust me. Can you do that? That's not an answer. I know, but it's all I can give you right now. He paused. Don't talk to them without a lawyer present. I'm sending someone to you. Ronan, you're scaring me. I'm protecting you. There's a difference. His voice softened. I'll explain everything when I get home. I promise. The call ended, and Alina sank onto the couch, her mind spinning. She should leave, should pack her things and walk away before this became something she couldn't escape. But even as the thought formed, she knew she wouldn't. Because whatever Ronan was involved in, whatever shadows lurked in his past, she was already in too deep to turn back. An hour later, a woman in an expensive suit appeared at the door, introducing herself as Jennifer Kwan, attorney at law. Mr. Voss asked me to accompany you if you choose to speak with the police, Jennifer said, her manner brisk and professional. But my advice? Don't. You have no obligation to answer their questions, and anything you say could be used against him. Used against him for what? Jennifer's expression remained neutral. I'm not at liberty to discuss the details of Mr. Voss's legal matters, but I can tell you that cooperating with law enforcement at this stage would be unwise. Alina felt like she was drowning. What has he done? Nothing illegal, to my knowledge, but perception matters as much as reality in these situations. Jennifer handed her a business card. If the police contact you again, call me immediately. Don't say anything without representation. After Jennifer left, Alina paced the apartment, her anxiety building with every passing minute. She tried calling Ronan, but it went to voicemail, tried distracting herself with television, but couldn't focus. The walls felt like they were closing in. When the door finally opened at 1:30, she spun around, relief and anger warring in her chest. Where have you been? Ronan closed the door, his expression weary. Dealing with a situation. What situation? What are the police investigating? He crossed to the bar, pouring himself a drink. One of my companies is under scrutiny for potential financial irregularities. It's a competitor trying to sabotage me. Nothing will come of it. Then why did they want to talk to me? To rattle me. To make me doubt the people around me. He downed the whiskey, then poured another. It's a pressure tactic. Alina's hands clenched into fists. You should have told me, before I got a call from a detective, before I had a lawyer show up at your door. I was trying to protect you. By keeping me in the dark? By keeping you out of it entirely. His voice rose, the control slipping for the first time. Do you have any idea what these people are capable of? They'll use anyone close to me as leverage. I didn't want you involved. Well, I am involved. The second I said yes to dinner, the second I stayed the night, I became involved. Ronan set down his glass, running a hand through his hair. When he spoke again, his voice was quieter, strained. I never wanted to put you in this position. Then maybe you shouldn't have pursued me. The words came out harsher than she intended, but she didn't take them back. Because the truth was settling in now. Ronan's world wasn't just wealthy and powerful. It was dangerous, and she'd walked into it blindly. You're right, he said finally. I shouldn't have. It was selfish. Is that what I am to you, a selfish choice? No. He crossed to her, his hands framing her face. You're the first thing that's felt right in years, but that doesn't change the fact that being with me comes with risks. What kind of risks? His jaw tightened. The kind I can handle, as long as you trust me. How can I trust you when you won't tell me the truth? Because the truth is ugly and complicated, and I don't want it to touch you. Alina pulled back, her chest tight. I'm not some fragile thing you need to protect, Ronan. If we're really doing this, if you meant what you said about being all in, then you need to stop treating me like I can't handle reality. He stared at her, something shifting in his expression. Then he nodded, once, sharp and decisive. Sit down. Alina sank onto the couch, her heart pounding. Ronan sat across from her, his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped. I've made a lot of money doing things that exist in gray areas, not illegal, but not exactly clean. Restructuring companies sometimes means liquidating assets that people depend on. Acquiring properties sometimes means displacing people who can't afford to fight back. I've built an empire on being smarter and more ruthless than everyone else. He met her gaze. And I've made enemies. Powerful ones. People who would love nothing more than to see me fall. Why are you telling me this? Because you deserve to know what you're walking into. This isn't just about wealth or power. It's about control. And when you challenge powerful people, they push back. Alina's throat felt tight. What do they want from you? To see me broken, or better yet, destroyed. His voice was flat, emotionless. The investigation is just the beginning. They'll dig into everything, my business, my past, the people I care about. And if they find leverage, they'll use it. And I'm leverage now. Yes. The single word landed like a punch. Alina stood pacing to the window, her mind racing. She should leave. This was exactly the kind of toxic situation Maya had warned her about. But even as the thought formed, she couldn't bring herself to move. I won't be used against you, she said quietly. I won't let them. You can't control everything, Ronan. No, but I can control this. He stood, crossing to her. If you want out, I'll understand. I'll make sure you're protected, that nothing touches you. You can walk away, and it ends here. Alina turned to face him, her heart pounding. Is that what you want? What I want is irrelevant. This is about what's safe for you. Answer the question. His hands clenched at his sides. No, it's not what I want, but I won't trap you in something that could hurt you. She studied his face, seeing the war raging behind his eyes. The man who wanted to protect her, the man who wanted to keep her, the man who was terrified of both. I'm not leaving, she said. Alina, I'm not. She stepped closer, her hands settling on his chest. I'm scared, and this is insane, but I'm not walking away. Ronan's arms wrapped around her, pulling her close. You should. Probably. But I'm not known for making smart decisions lately. A rough laugh escaped him, and he buried his face in her hair. What am I going to do with you? Keep me safe. Keep me close, and stop lying to me. I can do that. They stood like that for a long moment, holding on to each other as if letting go would mean losing everything. And maybe it would. But Alina had made her choice. She was all in. The weeks that followed were a strange dance between normalcy and tension. Ronan threw himself into damage control, meetings with lawyers and PR specialists filling his days. Alina returned to work, though she found it hard to focus knowing that somewhere people were investigating the man she was falling for. The media caught wind of the story, tabloid headlines screaming about financial misconduct and shady dealings. Ronan's name was everywhere, and by extension, so was hers. Photographers camped outside her apartment building. Strangers recognized her on the street. Her phone rang constantly with reporters asking for comments. "This is insane," she told Ronan one night as they hid in his apartment, the curtains drawn against the cameras below. "It'll pass. These things always do. And if it doesn't, then we deal with it." He pulled her close, together. But the pressure was building, cracks forming in their fragile foundation. Ronan became more withdrawn, spending hours locked in his office, emerging only to collapse into bed beside her. Alina tried to give him space, but the distance felt like a chasm widening between them. One night she confronted him. "Talk to me." "There's nothing to talk about." "Don't do that. Don't shut me out." Ronan's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to protect you." "By pushing me away? By keeping you separate from this mess?" "I'm already part of it, Ronan. You can't protect me by pretending I'm not." He stood, pacing to the window. "They're going after my company. If this investigation gains traction, I could lose everything. I don't care about the money." "It's not about the money. It's about what I've built, what I've fought for." His voice cracked. "And if I lose it, what am I?" Alina crossed to him, turning him to face her. "You're the man who sees me, who challenges me, who makes me want to be braver than I am. That doesn't change whether you have an empire or nothing. You say that now, but I say it because it's true." She gripped his shirt, forcing him to meet her eyes. "I didn't fall for your money or your power. I fell for you." The words hung between them, a confession she hadn't meant to make. Ronan stared at her, something breaking open in his expression. "You fell for me," he repeated, as if testing the words. "Yes." He kissed her then, desperate and consuming, his hands tangling in her hair. And for that moment, the world outside didn't matter. Just them, holding on to each other in the darkness. But darkness has a way of creeping in, no matter how tightly you close the door. The call came at 3 a.m. Alina jolted awake to the sound of Ronan's phone vibrating against the nightstand, the harsh buzz cutting through the silence. He was already reaching for it, his body tense beside her. "Voss." His voice was sharp, alert despite the hour. Then his expression changed, hardening into something cold and dangerous. "When?" Alina sat up, pulling the sheet around herself, her heart beginning to race. She watched as Ronan swung his legs out of bed, already moving toward his closet. "I'll be there in 20 minutes. He ended the call, his jaw tight. "What's wrong?" "Someone broke into one of my properties, the warehouse in Red Hook." He pulled on clothes with quick, efficient movements. "Security thinks it was deliberate, not a robbery." "What does that mean?" Ronan paused, his hand on the doorframe, his eyes meeting hers. "It means someone's sending a message. Stay here. Lock the door. Don't answer for anyone but me." Fear spiked through her chest. "Ronan, you're scaring me." "Good. You should be scared." He crossed back to her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. "I'll be back as soon as I can. Promise me you'll stay inside." "I promise." But after he left, the apartment felt too large, too empty, every shadow suddenly menacing. Alina tried to sleep but couldn't, her mind racing with possibilities she didn't want to consider. Who would break into Ronan's property? What kind of message were they sending? She was still awake when her phone rang just after 5. Maya's name flashed on the screen. "Hello?" "Oh, thank God you're okay." Maya's voice was breathless, panicked. "Have you seen the news?" "What? No, why?" "Turn on your TV, channel 4. Alina grabbed the remote with shaking hands, flipping to the local news. The image that filled the screen made her blood run cold. Footage of a warehouse engulfed in flames, firefighters battling the blaze, smoke billowing into the pre-dawn sky. The headline scrolling across the bottom read, Suspected arson at Voss Enterprises property. Alina, where are you? Maya demanded. I'm at Ronan's. Get out of there, now. What? Why? Because whoever set that fire is sending him a message, and you're right in the middle of it. Maya's voice cracked. Please, just come to my place. We can figure this out together. I can't. Ronan told me to stay here. Ronan is involved in something dangerous. Can't you see that? This isn't normal, Alina. People don't just set fires to send messages unless what? Silence stretched across the line. Then Maya spoke quietly, carefully. Unless they're willing to kill to get what they want. The words sent ice through Alina's veins. She disconnected the call, her hands trembling as she stared at the television. The reporter was interviewing someone from the fire department, speculation about the cause, about whether anyone was inside. The camera panned across the scene, and Alina's breath caught. There, in the background, was Ronan. Even from a distance, even in the grainy footage, she recognized him. Standing with a group of men in suits, his posture rigid, his expression unreadable. Her phone buzzed with a text. Ronan, don't believe everything you see on the news. I'm fine. The building was empty. I'll explain when I get home, but there was something else. Another message from an unknown number. Unknown. He's lying to you. Ask him about Marcus Reeves. Ask him what really happened in Brooklyn 5 years ago. Alina stared at the message, her heart pounding. She should delete it, should trust Ronan like she'd promised, but the name sat heavy in her mind, demanding attention. Against her better judgment, she opened her laptop and typed the name into the search bar. Marcus Reeves. The results that appeared made her stomach drop. Articles about a real estate developer found dead in his Brooklyn office 5 years ago. Ruled a suicide, but speculation of foul play had lingered. And there, buried in the third article, was a mention of Ronan Voss as a business associate who had stood to gain from Reeves's death. Alina slammed the laptop shut, her breath coming in short gasps. No, this couldn't be real. Ronan wasn't capable of... Her phone rang. Ronan. Hey, she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm on my way back. Are you okay? I saw the news. I know. I'm sorry you had to see it like that. Ronan, what's happening? She heard him exhale, the sound crackling through the speaker. Someone's trying to destroy me. They're escalating. The fire was just the beginning. Who? I have my suspicions, but I need to be sure before I act. His voice lowered. When I get home, we need to talk about everything. The line went dead, and Alina sat in the silence, the unknown message burning in her mind. She wanted to trust him, wanted to believe that whatever darkness surrounded him, he was still the man who'd seen her, who'd made her feel alive. But doubt had taken root, and it was growing. When Ronan walked through the door 40 minutes later, he looked exhausted. Soot stained his shirt, and the smell of smoke clung to him. But his eyes were clear, focused, as they found hers across the room. Tell me the truth, Alina said without preamble. All of it. No more protection, no more secrets, just truth. Ronan nodded slowly, shrugging off his jacket. He moved to the bar, pouring himself a drink, then thought better of it and set the glass down untouched. The fire was set by people connected to Victor Marino. He's a real estate developer who's been trying to squeeze me out of the Brooklyn market for years. We've been at war, quietly, professionally, but tonight he made it personal. Why? Because I bought a property he wanted. One that would have given him control over an entire development corridor. He's not someone who accepts losing. Alina's fingers clenched around her phone, the unknown message still glowing on the screen. What about Marcus Reeves? Ronan's head snapped up, his expression hardening. Where did you hear that name? Someone texted me, told me to ask you about him. Show me. She handed him the phone, watching as his jaw tightened. This number. When did you get this? Just now, while you were at the warehouse. Ronan's hands balled into fists, his control slipping. They're targeting you now, using you to get to me. Who is Marcus Reeves? He was a competitor, someone I did business with. He killed himself 5 years ago. The articles said there was speculation. The articles were written by people desperate for a story. Ronan's voice was sharp, defensive. Marcus was unstable. He made bad investments, burned bridges, and when it all collapsed, he couldn't handle it. I had nothing to do with his death. But you benefited from it. The accusation hung between them, ugly and unavoidable. Ronan stared at her, and for the first time since they'd met, she saw fear in his eyes. Not of external threats. Of her. Of what she might believe. Yes, he said finally. I benefited. I bought his properties at liquidation prices after he died. It was business, Alina. Cold, maybe, but not murder. Then why are people saying otherwise? Because in my world, success makes you a target. People create narratives to tear you down. And right now, someone is using those narratives to drive a wedge between us. Alina wanted to believe him. Every fiber of her being wanted to accept his explanation and move past this. But the doubt remained, insidious and poisonous. I need time, she said quietly, to think. Time for what? To figure out if I can really do this. If I can be with someone whose life comes with this much darkness. Ronan's face went pale. You're leaving. I don't know. Maybe. I can't breathe right now, Ronan. Everything is happening too fast and I don't know what's real anymore. He crossed to her, his hands framing her face. This is real. You and me. Everything else is noise. It's not noise when someone sets your building on fire. It's not noise when I get threatening messages. It's not noise when your past keeps bleeding into our present. I can protect you. That's not the point, her voice broke. I don't want to need protection. I don't want to live in fear, and I don't want to be the weakness someone uses against you. You're not a weakness. You're the only thing keeping me sane. Tears spilled down her cheeks, hot and unwanted. What if that's not enough? Ronan pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the world. It has to be, because I can't lose you. They stood like that, holding each other as the sun rose over the city, painting the sky in shades of gold and red. And Alina knew, deep in her bones, that whatever choice she made would change everything. The decision came 3 days later. Alina had gone back to her own apartment, needing space to think without Ronan's presence clouding her judgment. He'd respected her request, though his messages came regularly, never demanding, just reminders that he was there, waiting. She was sitting on her couch, staring at her laptop, when the knock came, firm, insistent, official. Through the peephole, she saw Detective Chen and another officer she didn't recognize. Miss Cross, we'd like to ask you a few questions. Against every instinct screaming at her to call Jennifer Kwan, Alina opened the door. About what? About your relationship with Ronan Voss. May we come in? She stepped aside, her heart racing. The detectives entered, their eyes scanning her small apartment with professional interest. We understand you've been spending significant time with Mr. Voss, Detective Chen began, settling onto the chair across from Alina. We're hoping you can help us understand his recent activities. I don't know anything about his business. We're not asking about his business. We're asking about him, his behavior, his associations, whether you've noticed anything unusual. Alina's throat tightened. Like what? The second detective, a man who introduced himself as Detective Morrison, leaned forward. Like meetings with known criminals, large cash transactions, conversations about offshore accounts. No, nothing like that. What about threats? Has Mr. Voss mentioned anyone threatening him? Anyone he's had conflicts with? An image of the burning warehouse flashed through Alina's mind. He mentioned someone named Victor Marino. Detective Chen's eyes sharpened. In what context? He said Marino was a competitor, that they'd had disagreements about properties. Did he say anything else about how he planned to handle those disagreements? Alina hesitated, the weight of the question pressing down on her. She could tell them about the fire, about Ronan's suspicions, but that felt like betrayal, like crossing a line she couldn't uncross. No, just that it was business. Detective Morrison pulled out a folder, sliding several photographs across the coffee table. Do you recognize any of these men? Alina studied the images, faces she didn't know, caught in what looked like surveillance photos. Men in expensive suits standing outside buildings, talking in parking lots. And there, in the third photo, was Ronan, deep in conversation with someone whose face was obscured. That's Ronan, she said, pointing. And the man he's talking to? I don't know. His name is Anton Volkov. He's connected to organized crime, money laundering, extortion, racketeering. Detective Chen's voice was calm, factual. This photo was taken 2 weeks ago, the same day you had dinner at Aurelio. The floor seemed to drop away beneath Alina's feet. That's not possible. We have time-stamped surveillance. Mr. Voss met with Volkov for approximately 30 minutes before joining you at the restaurant. He didn't. There must be some explanation. We hope so. That's why we're here. To give Mr. Voss the benefit of the doubt. But we need your cooperation. Alina's hands trembled. What do you want from me? Information. Anything you've seen or heard that might help us understand what Mr. Voss is involved in. Detective Morrison's expression softened. We know you care about him, but if he's in danger, or if he's putting you in danger, we need to know. I should call a lawyer. You're not under investigation, Miss Cross. We're just talking. But the words felt like a trap, and Alina knew she was in over her head. I think you should leave. Detective Chen stood, handing Alina a card. If you change your mind, call me. Day or night. We can protect you if you need it. After they left, Alina sat in the silence, the photographs still scattered on her table. She picked up the one of Ronan and Volkov, studying it closely. The timestamp was clear. The location was confirmed, but none of it made sense with the man she knew, unless she didn't really know him at all. Her phone rang. Ronan. Hey, she answered, her voice hollow. I heard the police were at your apartment. Are you okay? Did they hurt you? How did you know they were here? A pause. I have someone watching your building for your protection. You have someone watching me? The words came out sharp, angry, without telling me. Alina, after the fire, I couldn't take chances. If someone's targeting me, they might target you. Stop, just stop. She pressed her fingers to her temples. I need you to be honest with me. Who is Anton Volkov? Silence stretched across the line, heavy and damning. How do you know that name? The police showed me photos of you and him, together. Ronan exhaled slowly. It's not what you think. Then what is it? Because right now it looks like you're meeting with criminals while telling me everything is fine. Volkov approached me months ago. Wanted to invest in one of my projects. I turned him down. The meeting you saw was me making it clear he needed to back off. Why didn't you tell me? Because I didn't want you involved in that part of my life. I still don't. Alina laughed bitterly. I'm already involved, Ronan. People are sending me messages. Police are questioning me. Your building burned down. I'm so far involved that I can't see daylight anymore. Then let me pull you out. Come back to my place. We'll figure this out together. No. I need to stay here. I need to think without you next to me, making me feel things that cloud my judgment. Alina, I love you. The words came out broken, raw. I love you, and it's killing me because I don't know if I can trust you. She heard his breath catch. You can trust me. Can I? Because every time I think I understand who you are, something else surfaces. Some other secret, some other connection to things I don't understand. I'm the same person I was when we met. The same person who sees you, who wants you, who would burn the whole world down to keep you safe. That's what scares me. That you would burn the world down. That maybe you already have, and I just haven't seen the ashes yet. What do you want me to say? I want you to tell me the truth. All of it. Not the sanitized version, not the version that protects me. The real truth about who you are and what you've done. Another pause. Then Ronan spoke, his voice rough. If I tell you everything, you'll leave. And I can't lose you, Alina. You're losing me anyway, one secret at a time. She heard him breathing, heard the struggle in the silence. Then he made a decision. Tomorrow, come to my office. I'll show you everything. Files, records, deals, all of it. No more secrets, no more protection, just truth. You mean it? Yes. But after tomorrow, you might not want to stay, and I need you to be ready for that. Alina closed her eyes, tears streaming down her face. Okay, tomorrow. The call ended, and she sat in the darkness, wondering if she'd just agreed to save their relationship or destroy it. The next morning, Alina stood outside Ronan's office building in Midtown, her stomach in knots. The structure was all glass and steel, soaring into the sky like a monument to success. She'd never been here before, had never seen this part of his life. Security recognized her immediately, waving her through to a private elevator that required a keycard. The ride to the 40th floor felt endless, her reflection staring back at her from the polished walls, pale and uncertain. Ronan was waiting when the doors opened, standing in a reception area that screamed wealth and power, but his eyes were only on her. "You came," he said softly. "I said I would." He led her through corridors lined with modern art, past assistants who nodded respectfully, into a corner office with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city. On the desk sat several thick folders, a laptop, and a tablet. "Everything you want to know is here," Ronan said, gesturing to the materials. "Business deals, financial records, partnerships that maybe I shouldn't have made. I'm giving you full access." Alina approached the desk slowly, her hands trembling as she picked up the first folder. Inside were contracts, dense legal language detailing property acquisitions, corporate restructurings, investment portfolios. She flipped through pages, trying to make sense of it all. "Tell me about Marcus Reeves," she said without looking up. Ronan moved to the window, his back to her. "Marcus and I started out as partners. We bought our first Brooklyn property together when we were both broke and desperate. For a while we were a team. But Marcus started taking risks, borrowing from the wrong people, making promises he couldn't keep." "What people?" "The kind who don't forgive debts. The kind who solve problems with violence." He turned to face her. "I warned him, tried to get him out before it was too late. But he thought he could handle it, thought he was smarter than everyone else. And when he died, I bought his assets to keep them from falling into the hands of the people he owed. If I hadn't, they would have taken everything, and his family would have been left with nothing." Ronan's voice was steady but strained. "I made sure his wife and daughter were taken care of, set up a trust fund that still pays out today. It's all documented. In that folder." Alina found the file, seeing the transfers, the trust documents, the ongoing payments. It was exactly as he said, but something still nagged at her. "Did you know he was going to kill himself?" "No, if I had, I would have stopped him. Whatever you think of me, Alina, I'm not a monster. Marcus was my friend once. His death still haunts me." She believed him, or wanted to, but the questions kept coming. "What about Victor Marino?" "Marino is exactly what I said. A competitor who can't accept losing. The fire was his way of sending a message, but I have people handling it." "What people?" Ronan hesitated. "Security consultants, lawyers, people who know how to deal with threats." "Legal threats?" "Mostly." "Mostly isn't good enough, Ronan." He crossed to her, his expression intense. "In my world, legal doesn't always cut it. Sometimes you have to fight fire with fire. Sometimes you have to make people understand that coming after you has consequences." "What kind of consequences?" "The kind that keep everyone safe, including you." Alina set down the folder, her hands shaking. "You're talking about violence." "I'm talking about protection. There's a difference." "Is there?" "Because from where I'm standing, it all looks the same." Ronan's jaw tightened. "What do you want from me, Alina? To roll over and let them destroy everything I've built? To put you at risk because I'm too moral to fight back? I want you to be someone who doesn't have to fight at all, someone whose life isn't a war zone." "Then you want someone else. Because this is who I am. This is the life I chose, the battles I fight, the world I live in." His voice broke. "But I'm trying to change. For you. I'm working to clean up the parts of my business that cross lines. I'm cutting ties with people like Volkov. I'm trying to be better." "Trying isn't enough if you're still meeting with criminals." "That meeting was me ending a relationship, not starting one. I told Volkov to stay away from me and my business. That's why he's angry. That's why things are escalating." Alina pressed her hands to her face, overwhelmed. "I don't know how to do this. How to love someone whose life comes with this much danger." "Then don't." The words were harsh, final. "Walk away. Right now. Before it gets worse. Before you're in too deep to escape." She looked up at him, seeing the pain in his eyes, the fear he was trying so hard to hide. And she realized something fundamental. He was giving her an out, pushing her away to protect her, even though it was killing him. "What do you want, Ronan? Not what you think is best for me. What do you want?" His control shattered. "I want you to stay. I want to wake up next to you every morning and fall asleep with you every night. I want to build a life that's clean and safe and normal. I want to be the man you deserve instead of the man I am." His voice dropped to a whisper. "But I can't promise you won't get hurt. I can't promise this will be easy. All I can promise is that I'll fight with everything I have to keep you safe and make you happy." Tears blurred Alina's vision. "What if that's not enough? Then I'll live with losing you. But I'll know I gave you the choice instead of trapping you with lies." The honesty in his voice broke something open inside her. All the fear, all the doubt, it was still there. But so was love. Fierce, terrifying, undeniable love. "I'm not leaving," she said. "Alina, I'm not. But I need you to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you'll really change, not just try, not just talk about it. Actually do it. Walk away from the gray areas. Cut ties with everyone who drags you into darkness. Build something clean, even if it means losing power." Ronan stared at her, the weight of the promise settling over him. "That could take years. I could lose everything. Then we'll build something new, together." He crossed to her, pulling her into his arms, his face buried in her hair. "I don't deserve you." "Probably not, but you're stuck with me anyway." They held each other in the silence, and Alina felt the shift between them. The understanding that this wasn't just about love anymore. It was about choosing each other, consequences and all. Outside the windows, the city stretched endlessly, beautiful and brutal. And somewhere in that vast expanse, threats still lurked. Enemies still plotted, darkness still waited. But for now, in this moment, they had each other. And maybe that was enough to face whatever came next. The fragile peace lasted exactly 11 days. Alina had moved back into Ronan's apartment, and they'd fallen into a cautious rhythm. He worked during the day, taking meetings with lawyers and accountants as he began the slow process of restructuring his business. She returned to her design work, though she'd started freelancing from his penthouse, rather than face the whispers at her office. Evenings were theirs, quiet dinners, conversations that stretched into the early hours, the careful reconstruction of trust. But on the 12th day, everything shattered. Alina was alone in the apartment, sketching ideas for a client presentation, when her phone rang. Unknown number. She almost ignored it, but something made her answer. "Hello?" Silence. Then breathing, heavy, deliberate. "Who is this?" Her voice sharpened with fear. "You should have left when you had the chance." The voice was distorted, mechanical, impossible to identify. "Now it's too late." The line went dead. Alina's hands shook as she immediately called Ronan. He answered on the first ring. "Someone just called me, threatened me. I'm on my way. Don't leave the apartment. Don't open the door for anyone." His voice was tight with barely controlled rage. "I'm 15 minutes out." Those 15 minutes felt like hours. Alina paced the living room, her mind racing through possibilities, each more terrifying than the last. She checked the locks 3 times, closed the curtains, grabbed a kitchen knife and set it on the counter, hating herself for even considering she might need it. When Ronan burst through the door, he wasn't alone. 2 men in dark suits followed him, their eyes scanning the apartment with professional efficiency. "Security," Ronan explained, moving directly to Alina and pulling her close. "They'll sweep the building, make sure no one unauthorized got in." "Who was it? Who called me?" "I don't know yet, but I will." His jaw was set, his eyes dark with fury. "Show me your phone." She handed it over and he forwarded the number to someone, typing rapidly. The security team moved through the apartment, checking windows, examining the door, speaking in low voices into their radios. "Mr. Voss," one of them called from the bedroom. "You need to see this." They followed him into the room, and Alina's blood turned to ice. On the bed, arranged carefully on top of the pristine white comforter, was a photograph of her, taken yesterday as she walked to the corner coffee shop. The angle was from across the street, telephoto lens, professional quality. And written across the bottom in red marker were 4 words. "She's easier to reach." Ronan's face went white, then flushed with rage. He grabbed the photo, crushing it in his fist. "Everyone out, now." The security team exchanged glances but obeyed, filing out of the bedroom. Ronan stood frozen, his breathing ragged, his control hanging by a thread. "They were in our home," he said quietly, the words dripping with barely contained violence. They broke into our home and left this on our bed. Alina couldn't speak, couldn't move. The violation was complete, absolute. Someone had been here, in their most private space, while they slept, while they lived, while they believed they were safe. Pack a bag, Ronan said suddenly. We're leaving. Where are we going? Somewhere secure, somewhere I can control every access point. He pulled out his phone, making a call. Marcus, I need the Connecticut house prepared. Full security detail. We're leaving within the hour. Ronan, wait! He turned to her, and the look in his eyes stopped her words. This wasn't the controlled businessman or the passionate lover. This was something else entirely. Something dangerous. They crossed a line, he said, his voice deadly quiet. They made this about you. And now they're going to learn what happens when they threaten what's mine. The possessiveness should have frightened her. Instead, it ignited something primal inside her. Because she was his, and he was hers, and someone had violated that bond. What are you going to do? Whatever it takes. They were in the car within 40 minutes, a convoy of 3 black SUVs speeding north out of the city. Alina sat beside Ronan in the middle vehicle, watching the city disappear behind them. He was on the phone constantly, his voice clipped and commanding, orchestrating something she couldn't fully understand. I want surveillance on every property Marino owns. I want his phone records. I want to know everyone he's talked to in the past month. A pause. I don't care if it's legal. Just do it. Alina's stomach twisted. This was the side of Ronan she'd feared existed. The ruthless operator who bent rules and broke boundaries to get what he wanted. But watching him now, seeing the fierce protectiveness in every word, every gesture, she couldn't bring herself to condemn him, because he was doing this for her. The Connecticut estate was a fortress disguised as a mansion, set on 50 acres of wooded property, surrounded by high walls and monitored by cameras at every angle. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. Armed guards patrolled the perimeter. The house itself was a sprawling modern structure with walls of glass that somehow managed to feel both exposed and impenetrable. This is where you come when you need to disappear? Alina asked as they stepped into the marble foyer. This is where I come when I need to think clearly. Ronan dismissed the security team with a wave, though she noticed they didn't go far. We'll be safe here. No one gets within a mile without me knowing. That night, they sat in the living room, a fire crackling in the massive stone fireplace, the forest dark beyond the windows. Ronan had been on the phone for hours, coordinating, planning, preparing for something Alina could only guess at. When he finally hung up, he looked exhausted. Come here, she said softly. He crossed to the couch, sinking down beside her, his head dropping back against the cushions. Alina moved closer, her hand finding his. Tell me what you're planning. I'm going to end this, once and for all. How? He turned to look at her, his eyes reflecting the firelight. By giving Marino what he wants, the Brooklyn properties, all of them. Alina sat up, shocked. What? Why? Because they're not worth your safety. Nothing is. His hand tightened on hers. I've spent years building an empire. But what's the point if I lose you in the process? Ronan, you can't just give in to him. He'll think he won. He'll keep pushing. Let him think he won. I don't care about pride. I care about keeping you alive. The words landed with devastating sincerity. Alina felt tears prick her eyes. This is your life's work. Everything you've built can be rebuilt. You can't. He pulled her into his arms, his voice breaking. I lost my father to this world, to the pressure and the violence and the endless need to win. I won't lose you too. She buried her face in his chest, feeling the steady beat of his heart. What if giving him the properties isn't enough? What if he wants more? Then I'll give him more. I'll give him everything except you. They sat in the silence, holding each other as the fire burned down to embers, and Alina realized the depth of what he was offering, not just properties or money, but his identity, the empire that defined him. He was willing to walk away from it all, for her. But the universe had other plans. The call came at 2 a.m, Ronan's phone vibrating on the nightstand, pulling them both from restless sleep. He grabbed it, his face hardening as he listened. When? A pause. How bad? Another pause, longer this time. I'll be there in 2 hours. He hung up, already moving toward the closet. What happened? Alina asked, fear spiking through her. Someone torched my office building. The whole 40th floor is gone. Oh my God, was anyone hurt? No, it was after hours. But everything, all my files, records, backups, it's all destroyed. His voice was eerily calm, which somehow made it worse. This wasn't about the properties. This was about destroying me completely. Alina threw back the covers, reaching for her clothes. I'm coming with you. No, you're staying here where it's safe. Ronan, I can't focus on what needs to be done if I'm worried about you. He cupped her face, his expression fierce. Please, stay here. Let me handle this. She wanted to argue, to insist on being by his side, but the plea in his eyes stopped her. Okay, but you call me every hour, or I'm getting in a car and coming to find you. Deal. He kissed her hard, desperately. Then he was gone, the sound of the SUV's engine fading into the distance. Alina stood at the window, watching the taillights disappear, a terrible certainty settling in her chest. This wasn't over. It was just beginning. The house felt too large without Ronan. Alina tried to sleep but couldn't, her mind spinning with worst-case scenarios. She wandered through the rooms, noting the expensive art, the carefully curated furniture, the complete absence of anything personal. This wasn't a home. It was a hiding place. At 6 a.m., her phone rang. Not Ronan. Maya. Please tell me you're not with him, Maya said without preamble. I'm at his house in Connecticut. What's wrong? What's wrong? Have you seen the news? Ronan's building burned down last night. The FBI is all over it. They're saying it's connected to organized crime. It was Victor Marino. He's trying to destroy Ronan. Or Ronan is involved in something worse than you thought, and it's finally catching up with him. Maya's voice softened. Alina, I love you. You're my best friend, but you need to wake up. This man has dragged you into a war. People are getting hurt. Buildings are burning, and you're hiding in his mansion while he does God knows what in the city. He's protecting me. He's isolating you. There's a difference. A pause. I talked to your mom. She's worried sick. She wants you to come home. You told my mom? Someone had to. You've cut yourself off from everyone who cares about you, your friends, your family, your job. It's all falling apart while you play house with a man who's connected to criminals. Anger flared hot in Alina's chest. You don't know him. You don't understand what we have. You're right. I don't understand how someone I've known for 10 years could lose herself so completely in 3 months. The Alina I know wouldn't hide while buildings burn. She'd demand answers. She'd protect herself. I am protecting myself by trusting the man I love. Love shouldn't feel like this, Alina. It shouldn't be this hard, this dangerous, this consuming. Love should make you stronger, not smaller. The words hit like a physical blow. Because part of Alina knew Maya was right. She had gotten smaller. Her world had shrunk to just Ronan, his problems, his enemies, his solutions. Everything else had faded into background noise. I have to go, she said quietly. Please just think about what I said and call your mom. She deserves to know you're okay. The call ended, and Alina sank onto the couch, Maya's words echoing in her mind. Had she lost herself? Or had she finally found someone worth fighting for? Her phone buzzed with a text from Ronan. Ronan, at the building. FBI wants to talk. Might be a while. Are you okay? Alina, I'm fine. Be careful. Ronan, always. I love you. Alina, I love you too. She stared at the words, feeling the truth of them even as doubt crept in. She did love him, desperately. But was love enough when everything around them was burning? The answer came sooner than she expected. At noon, a car pulled up to the gate. Alina watched through the security camera feed as the driver spoke to the guards, showing identification. A moment later, one of the security team knocked on the door. Miss Cross, there's someone here to see you. Says he's an old friend. Alina's stomach dropped. She had a terrible feeling she knew who it was even before the guard said the name. Lucas Hale, her ex, the man whose public humiliation had started this whole chain of events. What the hell was he doing here? Should I send him away? The guard asked. Every instinct screamed yes, but curiosity and something darker, made her hesitate. Let him in, but stay close. Lucas looked different. Thinner, tired, his usual cocky confidence replaced with something that looked like desperation. He stood in the foyer, taking in the opulent surroundings with barely concealed bitterness. Nice place, he said. Quite the upgrade from your old apartment. What do you want, Lucas? To talk, to warn you. He ran a hand through his hair. Can we sit down? Against her better judgment, Alina led him to the living room. She stayed standing, arms crossed, while he perched on the edge of a chair. How did you find me? I've been looking for you for weeks. Your friends wouldn't tell me anything, but I hired someone to track your phone. He must have seen the anger flash across her face because he held up his hands. I know it's creepy, but I needed to talk to you. We have nothing to talk about. We have everything to talk about, starting with the fact that you're in serious danger. Alina's blood went cold. What are you talking about? Lucas leaned forward, his expression grave. I know about Ronan Voss. About his business, his connections, the investigation. I know more than you think. Then you know he's being targeted, that someone is trying to destroy him. Alina, he's not the victim here. Lucas pulled out his phone, scrolling through something before handing it to her. Look at this. On the screen was a document, FBI case file, heavily redacted, but the visible portions made her stomach turn. References to money laundering, shell corporations, payments to individuals with known criminal connections. And there, throughout the document, was Ronan's name. This isn't real, she said, shoving the phone back at him. Someone faked this to discredit him. It's real. I have a friend at the bureau. They've been investigating Voss for over a year. The warehouse fire, the office building, those weren't attacks on him. They were part of a turf war he's involved in, a war over territory and money and power. You're lying. Why would I lie? Alina, I know I hurt you. I know I was an asshole at your birthday dinner, but I still care about you, and I can't watch you throw your life away for a man who's going to end up in prison, or worse. Alina's hands trembled. Get out. Listen to me. I said get out. Her voice rose, sharp with anger and fear. You have no right to come here, to my home, and tell me lies about the man I love. Lucas stood, his expression shifting from concern to frustration. He's using you. Can't you see that? You're his cover, the innocent girlfriend who makes him look respectable while he launders money and cuts deals with criminals. That's not true. Then ask him. Ask him about the offshore accounts in the Cayman Islands. Ask him about the payments to Anton Volkov that continued for months after he told you he cut ties. Ask him why the FBI has transcripts of him discussing eliminating Victor Marino. Each accusation landed like a blow. Alina felt her world tilting, the foundation she'd built her trust on cracking. Leave. Now, or I'll have security remove you. Lucas moved toward the door but paused at the threshold. I'm staying at the Fairfield Inn, room 247. When you're ready to hear the truth, the real truth, call me. I'll help you get out of this. I promise. Then he was gone, and Alina was alone with the doubts he'd planted. She should call Ronan, should tell him about Lucas's visit, about the accusations, about the FBI file. But something stopped her. A small voice whispering that maybe, just maybe, she needed to find the truth herself. Her laptop was in the bedroom. She opened it, her fingers hovering over the keyboard. Then she typed, Ronan Voss, Cayman Islands. The search results made her throat tighten. Articles about offshore banking, speculation about wealthy individuals hiding assets, and there, buried in a financial news report from 6 months ago, a mention of several shell corporations linked to Voss Enterprises with registered addresses in Georgetown. She dug deeper, found more connections, more threads that led to questions she didn't want to ask. Her phone rang. Ronan. Hey, she answered, trying to keep her voice steady. I'm done with the FBI. Heading back now. Should be there by 3. He paused. You sound strange. What's wrong? Nothing. Just tired. Alina. She closed her eyes, hating the doubt that had taken root. Lucas was here. Silence. Then, what? My ex. He showed up an hour ago, said he needed to warn me about you. What did he tell you? Things I don't want to believe, about investigations and offshore accounts and deals with people you said you'd cut ties with. More silence. heavy and damning. Ronan, tell me he's lying. It's complicated. Her heart sank. That's not a denial. Because I can't deny all of it. Some of what he told you is probably true, distorted, taken out of context, but based in facts I can't dispute. Tears burned behind her eyes. So you have been lying to me? No. I've been protecting you from parts of my past I'm trying to leave behind. There's a difference. Is there? Because right now it feels exactly the same. Alina, please, let me come home. Let me explain everything in person. No more secrets, no more protection, just the complete truth. She wanted to say yes, wanted to give him another chance to explain, to justify, to make her understand, but Maya's words echoed in her mind. Love shouldn't feel like this. I need time, she whispered. How much time? I don't know, but I can't see you right now. I can't think when you're near me. Don't do this. Don't let Lucas get in your head. Whatever he told you, whatever he showed you, was it true? Do you have offshore accounts you didn't tell me about? The pause was answer enough. Yes, but... She hung up. The phone immediately started ringing again. She turned it off, her hand shaking, her heart breaking. Everything she'd believed, everything she'd trusted, was built on half-truths and careful omissions. Ronan had given her pieces of honesty while hiding the parts that would make her run. And now she was here, alone in his fortress, surrounded by his security, trapped in a life she didn't fully understand. The realization that followed was devastating. She was in too deep to get out safely. Even if she wanted to leave, she knew too much, had seen too much. The people who wanted to hurt Ronan wouldn't care that she was an innocent bystander. To them, she was leverage. Alina sank to the floor, her back against the bed, tears streaming down her face. She'd walked into this willingly, made choices that led her here, and now she was paying the price. Her phone powered back on, immediately flooding with messages. Ronan, please answer. Let me explain. Ronan, I'm sorry. I should have told you everything. Ronan, I'm coming home. We'll figure this out together. Maya, did you think about what I said? I'm worried about you, and one from a number she didn't recognize. Unknown. You wanted the truth. Meet me at the south entrance in 10 minutes. Come alone. Alina stared at the message, her mind racing. This was a trap. Had to be. No one knew she was here except the people Ronan trusted. Unless Lucas had told someone. Unless someone had been watching all along. She should stay inside, should wait for Ronan to return, should trust the security protocols he'd put in place. But the part of her that had taken that first photo, that had gone to dinner with a stranger, that had chosen risk over safety, that part was screaming at her to find answers on her own terms. Alina grabbed her coat and slipped out of the bedroom. The security team was stationed at the front of the house. The south entrance was through the kitchen, a side door that led to the gardens. She made it outside without being seen, the cold air hitting her like a slap. The gardens were pristine, manicured paths winding through winter bare trees. And there, standing by a stone fountain, was a figure in a dark coat. Not Lucas. As Alina approached, the figure turned and her blood turned to ice. It was a woman, elegant, beautiful, and achingly familiar. Victoria Marchand, the woman from the gallery who'd looked at Alina like she was nothing. Thank you for coming, Victoria said, her voice smooth as silk. We have so much to discuss. What do you want? To show you who Ronan Voss really is, and why you should have run the moment you had the chance. Victoria pulled out a tablet, tapping the screen before handing it to Alina. The image that appeared made the world tilt beneath her feet. It was a photograph. Ronan and Victoria, clearly intimate, his hand at her waist, her lips at his ear, but it was the date stamp that made Alina's heart stop. 3 weeks ago, while she'd been falling in love with him, while he'd been promising her everything, while she'd been choosing to stay despite all the danger, he'd been with Victoria. That's impossible, Alina whispered, even as the evidence stared back at her. Oh, darling, it's very possible. Ronan and I have history, deep history, and unlike you, I understand who he really is. Victoria's smile was cruel. Did he tell you about me? About how we built this empire together? About how every property he claims as his victory was something we planned in bed? You're lying. Am I? Then why does the photo exist? Why has he been calling me weekly? Why did he have me arrange the offshore accounts Lucas told you about? Alina's legs felt weak. I don't believe you. You don't have to believe me. You just have to ask yourself one question. Victoria stepped closer, her voice dropping to a whisper. If Ronan loved you the way he claims, why am I still in his life? Why does he trust me with his secrets while lying to you? The question hung in the cold air, unanswerable and devastating. He's using you, Victoria continued. The innocent girlfriend, the perfect cover for a man whose business is anything but clean. When the investigation closes in, when his empire falls, you'll be the one left holding the blame while he walks away free. Why are you telling me this? Because unlike Ronan, I have standards. I won't watch him destroy a naive girl who actually believes his lies. Victoria's expression hardened. Leave. Tonight. I'll help you disappear before you become collateral damage in a war you never signed up for. Alina looked at the tablet, at the damning photo, at the woman who claimed to know Ronan better than she did. Everything inside her screamed that this was a trap, a manipulation, another layer of deception. But the doubt was there now, planted, growing, impossible to ignore. I need to think, she said. Don't think too long. Time is running out for both of you. Victoria took back the tablet. When you're ready to hear the whole truth, call me, but do it soon, because once Ronan finds out I talked to you, even I won't be able to protect you from what comes next. She turned and walked away, disappearing into the trees as silently as she'd appeared. Alina stood alone in the cold, her world shattered beyond recognition, with no idea who to trust or what to believe. And somewhere on the road from Manhattan, Ronan was racing home to a woman who no longer knew if she wanted him to arrive. Alina made it back to the bedroom before her legs gave out. She collapsed onto the floor, her back against the door, Victoria's words circling like vultures in her mind. The photo. The timeline. The perfect cruelty of it all. 3 weeks ago, she'd been lying in Ronan's arms, believing every promise he whispered against her skin. And if Victoria was telling the truth, he'd been with another woman, using Alina, playing a game she didn't even know existed. Her phone vibrated in her pocket. Another message from Ronan. Ronan, 20 minutes out. Please be there. Please let me explain. She should confront him the moment he walked through the door, should demand answers about Victoria, about the photo, about every lie he'd layered between them. But exhaustion crashed over her like a wave. She was so tired of fighting, of doubting, of trying to separate truth from manipulation. Footsteps thundered up the stairs. The bedroom door rattled against her back. Alina, open the door. Ronan's voice was strained, desperate. Please. She didn't move. I know you're angry. I know Lucas got in your head. But we can fix this. Just let me in. Why should I? The words came out hollow, defeated. So you can tell me more half-truths? More carefully constructed explanations that sound good but mean nothing? So I can tell you everything. The whole truth. No matter how ugly. Alina pressed her palms against the cool wood, her forehead following. I saw Victoria. The silence that followed was deafening. What did you say? Victoria Marchand. She was here, waiting for me in the gardens. Alina's voice cracked. She showed me a photo of the two of you, together, 3 weeks ago. She heard Ronan's sharp intake of breath, felt the door shudder as he leaned against it from the other side. That photo is fake. The timestamp was real. The intimacy was real. She knew things, Ronan, about offshore accounts, about your business, about me being a convenient cover for— Stop. His voice was raw. Just stop. Victoria is Victor Marino's cousin. This is part of their strategy. They're trying to destroy us from the inside because they can't break us any other way. Alina's mind reeled. What? Victoria has been working with Marino for months, feeding him information, helping him coordinate attacks. The photo is doctored, a composite of 2 different images. I haven't been alone with her since that gallery opening where you met her. How do I know you're telling the truth? Because I'm going to show you proof, right now. But I need you to open this door. Alina's hand trembled on the knob. Every rational thought screamed at her to keep it locked, to protect herself from more pain. But beneath the fear and doubt, a deeper truth pulsed. She still loved him, even now, even broken and terrified. She opened the door. Ronan stood on the other side, looking more wrecked than she'd ever seen him. His suit was rumpled, his hair disheveled, his eyes red-rimmed with exhaustion or emotion, or both. In his hand was his phone. "Look at this." He pulled up a video, turning the screen toward her. "This is security footage from my office, the day Victoria claims we were together." The timestamp matched. But the footage showed Ronan in a conference room with 4 other people, all men, all clearly lawyers or executives. The meeting ran for 3 hours. No Victoria, no intimate moment, no betrayal. "She's lying," he said quietly. The photo was manufactured, probably from the gallery event, edited to look recent and intimate. Alina felt something crack inside her. Why would she do that? To break you, to make you leave me, because as long as we're together, I'm stronger. I have something worth protecting, worth fighting clean for. But if you walk away, I go back to being the man I was before. Ruthless, dangerous, exactly what they want. He set down his phone and reached for her hands, his grip gentle despite the desperation in his eyes. I know I've kept things from you. The offshore accounts are real. They were set up years ago for legitimate tax purposes, but I should have told you. The meetings with people I shouldn't associate with are real. I've been trying to extricate myself cleanly, but I should have been transparent, all of it, every omission, every protection. I thought I was keeping you safe, but I was really just making it easier to lose you. Tears streamed down Alina's face. I don't know what's real anymore. This, he pressed her hand to his chest over his racing heart. This is real. What we have, what we've built. That's the only truth that matters. But Lucas showed me FBI documents. Victoria showed me that photo. How do I know what's manipulation and what's... A loud crash from downstairs cut her off. Ronan's body went rigid, his hand moving to her arm with sudden force. Get in the bathroom. Lock the door. Don't come out until I tell you. What's happening? Now, Alina. She'd never heard that tone from him. Pure command, edged with fear. She ran to the bathroom, her hands shaking as she turned the lock. Through the door, she heard Ronan shouting orders, heard footsteps pounding, heard the unmistakable sound of violence erupting below. This was it. The danger she'd been warned about. The consequences of loving a man whose world was built on fault lines. Minutes stretched like hours. Then she heard footsteps approaching the bedroom. Heavy, unfamiliar. Her heart hammered against her ribs. Alina Cross. The voice was male, cold, speaking through the bathroom door. Come out. We're not going to hurt you. Where's Ronan? Your boyfriend is temporarily indisposed, but he'll be fine if you cooperate. Terror flooded her system. Who are you? Friends of Victor Marino. We just want to talk. Every instinct screamed at her to stay hidden, but the implication was clear. They had Ronan, and they'd hurt him if she didn't comply. Her hand was on the lock when the door exploded inward, not from the intruder's force, from Ronan crashing through from the bedroom side, tackling the man with brutal efficiency. They hit the floor in a tangle of limbs, and Alina saw blood, whose she couldn't tell. She pressed herself against the wall, frozen, as Ronan fought with a viciousness she'd never witnessed. It was over in seconds. The intruder lay unconscious, and Ronan was on his feet, breathing hard, his knuckles split and bleeding. Are you hurt? His eyes scanned her frantically. No, I'm okay. You're bleeding. It's not mine. He grabbed her hand, pulling her toward the door. We need to leave. Now. More are coming. They ran through the bedroom into the hallway. Below, Alina could see Ronan's security team had subdued 2 more men, but the house felt compromised, violated. Ronan led her to a door she'd never noticed before, hidden behind a bookshelf. It opened to a stairwell leading down. Service entrance. Built it myself for situations exactly like this. His voice was controlled now, focused. There's a car waiting at the bottom. We get in, we drive. We don't stop until we're somewhere they can't find us. What about your security team? They'll handle the rest, but getting you out is the priority. They emerged into a garage where a nondescript sedan waited, engine running. Ronan pushed her into the passenger seat and took the wheel, peeling out before she'd even fastened her seatbelt. The drive was a blur of back roads and rural highways. Ronan checking mirrors constantly, his jaw set. Alina's mind raced with questions, but she couldn't form words. The reality of what had just happened was still catching up with her. Someone had broken into Ronan's fortress. They'd come for her, and Ronan had fought, truly fought, to protect her. "Where are we going?" she finally managed. "Vermont. Your hometown, the last place they'd expect. How do you know?" "I know everything about you, Alina, including that your mother still lives in the house you grew up in." He glanced at her, his expression softening slightly. "We'll be safe there while I end this." "How are you going to end it?" His hands tightened on the wheel. "By giving the FBI everything they need to take down Marino and everyone connected to him, including evidence that will implicate me in things I'm not proud of. I'm going to burn it all down. You'll go to prison. Maybe. Probably. But you'll be safe, and that's all that matters." The sacrifice in those words devastated her. "Ronan, no. There has to be another way. There isn't. I've spent the last 3 months trying to find one. But Marino's not going to stop. He'll keep coming, keep escalating until one of us is dead or destroyed, and I won't let it be you." Alina stared out the window, watching the dark landscape rush past. This was the man she'd fallen for, not despite his darkness, but because underneath it lived someone capable of this kind of sacrifice, someone who would give up everything for her safety. "What if I don't want you to do this?" she whispered. "Then I'm sorry, but it's already done. I sent the files to the FBI 2 hours ago, before I left the city, before I knew about Victoria's visit or the attack on the house." He took a shaky breath. "I made the choice when I realized that loving you meant being someone worthy of that love. And the man I've been, the empire I've built, isn't worthy." They drove through the night in silence, Alina processing the magnitude of what he'd done. By morning, they were pulling up to a small house on a tree-lined street in a town that time seemed to have forgotten. Her mother's house. Home. The porch light was on despite the early hour. The door opened before they reached it, and her mother stood framed in the doorway, older, grayer, but with the same fierce love in her eyes. "Alina, oh, baby." She pulled her daughter into a crushing embrace, then pulled back to study Ronan with a mother's sharp assessment. "You must be the man who's been keeping my daughter away." "Mom, it's okay." Ronan's voice was gentle. "She's right. I'm Ronan Voss, and I'm sorry for everything I've put your daughter through." Her mother's expression softened slightly. "Come inside, both of you. You look like you've been through hell." The house was exactly as Alina remembered. Warm, cluttered with memories, smelling of coffee and cinnamon. Her mother bustled around making breakfast while Ronan sat at the kitchen table, looking distinctly out of place among the floral curtains and family photos. "So," her mother said, setting down plates of eggs and toast, "are you going to tell me what's really going on? Or do I have to guess?" Alina looked at Ronan, then back at her mother. "It's complicated. Love usually is, but running usually isn't the answer. We're not running. We're—" Alina paused, realizing she didn't know what they were doing. Hiding, regrouping, waiting for the inevitable? Ronan set down his fork. "Mrs. Cross, your daughter got involved with me at a time when my life was complicated and dangerous. I brought her into situations she never should have faced, and now I'm trying to make it right by removing the danger, even if that means removing myself from her life." "That's very noble." Her mother's tone suggested she thought it was anything but. "But does my daughter get a say in this?" "Of course. Because from where I'm sitting, you're making decisions for her instead of with her. And that's not love, Mr. Voss. That's control dressed up as protection." The words landed like a slap. Ronan's face went pale, and Alina saw the truth of it hit him. "You're right," he said quietly. "You're absolutely right." He turned to Alina, his eyes filled with something raw and vulnerable. "I've been so focused on keeping you safe that I never asked what you wanted, what you'd choose if the decision was really yours." Alina's throat tightened. "What I want is impossible. Tell me anyway. I want you, but I want the version of you that's free from all of this. I want us to build something clean and real, without enemies and investigations and violence." She felt tears spilling over. "I want normal, but I want it with you." "Then that's what we'll have." Ronan reached across the table, taking her hands. "I'll testify. I'll cooperate fully with the investigation. I'll serve whatever time they give me. And when I get out, if you'll wait, we'll start over. Build that normal life you deserve." "How long?" His jaw tightened. "Best case, 3 to 5 years. Worst case?" 10 to 15. The numbers hit her like physical blows. Years of her life, of their lives, gone. That's not fair to you, he continued, to ask you to put your life on hold for someone who might not. Stop. Alina stood, moving around the table to face him. You don't get to make that choice for me. If I want to wait, I wait. If I want to move on, I move on. But it's my decision. Her mother quietly excused herself, leaving them alone in the kitchen. Ronan pulled Alina into his lap, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from the future bearing down on them both. I love you, he said into her hair. More than I knew it was possible to love someone, more than my empire or my freedom or anything else in this world. I love you too. That's why this is so hard. They sat like that as the sun rose higher, holding each other, neither speaking the truth they both knew. Love wasn't going to be enough to avoid the consequences, but maybe it was enough to survive them. The FBI arrived 3 days later. Not at her mother's house. Ronan had arranged to meet them at a federal building 2 hours away. He'd spent those 3 days with Alina, walking through her childhood town, meeting her old friends, seeing the life she'd lived before him. It felt like goodbyes stretched out over 72 hours. On the morning he left, they stood in her mother's driveway, the car that would take him away idling at the curb. I need to tell you something, Ronan said, his hands framing her face. Before I go. Before everything changes. What? Lucas was working with the FBI. He approached you intentionally, planted those documents to make you doubt me. Victoria was working with Marino, but Lucas was working with the authorities. They were all using you to get to me. The revelation should have shocked her. Instead, it just felt like one more betrayal in a long line. How do you know? My lawyer found out yesterday. Lucas had been informing on my activities for months. Your relationship with him, the public breakup, it was all designed to make you vulnerable, to make you the perfect entry point into my life. Alina felt sick. So everything from the beginning was a setup? Not everything, not us. Ronan's voice was fierce. That photo you sent me, that moment of vulnerability, that was real. And everything that followed, every conversation, every choice, every time we chose each other, that was real too. Lucas might have created the circumstances, but what we built was ours. She wanted to believe him, needed to believe that at least some part of this had been genuine. What happens to him? He gets immunity for his cooperation, walks away clean while I face the consequences. Ronan's expression hardened. But he'll never touch you again. I've made sure of that. How? By making it clear that if he ever comes near you, immunity won't protect him from me. His eyes met hers. I'm going to prison, Alina, but I'm not going to be powerless. And I'll spend every day making sure you're safe, even from a cell. The car honked gently, a reminder that time was running out. I don't want to let you go, Alina whispered. Then don't. Not really. Hold on to what we have. Build your life, your photography, everything you've always wanted. And when I get out, we'll see if there's still space for me in that life. There will be. You don't know that. You might meet someone else, someone who can give you the normal you deserve. I don't want normal if it doesn't include you. Ronan kissed her then, deep and desperate, a goodbye and a promise wrapped into one. When they finally broke apart, both had tears on their cheeks. I'll write to you, he said, every day. You don't have to write back. Just know that I'm thinking about you every second. I'll write back. I'll visit. I'll wait. Her voice broke. However long it takes. He pressed one more kiss to her forehead, then walked to the car. At the door, he turned back. That photo you sent that started all this? That moment of brave vulnerability? Hold on to that, Alina. That's who you really are. Don't let this steal it from you. Then he was gone, the car disappearing down the tree-lined street, taking her heart with it. The months that followed were the hardest of Alina's life. Ronan was arraigned, charged with conspiracy and financial crimes. The media circus was brutal, photos of her splashed across tabloids, speculation about her involvement, strangers shouting questions at her on the street. But she survived. Moved back to New York, started her own photography business, slowly rebuilt the life that had shattered the night she sent that photo to a stranger. Ronan's trial lasted 3 months. She attended every day, sitting in the back of the courtroom, watching him face the consequences of choices made long before they met. When the verdict came, guilty on 3 counts, sentenced to 7 years with possibility of parole in 5, she didn't cry. She'd cried enough. That night she received a letter, his first from prison. Alina, I know what you're thinking. 7 years is a lifetime. Too long to wait for someone who brought you nothing but pain. And if you decide to walk away, I'll understand. I'll carry our time together as the best thing that ever happened to me, even if it was brief. But if you choose to stay, if you choose to wait, know that I'm using every second of this time to become the man you believed I could be. Clean, honest, worthy of the love you gave me. The investigation revealed everything. Marino is facing charges too. Victoria disappeared. Lucas is in witness protection. But you're safe. That's all that matters to me. I love you. I'll love you every day I'm in here. And if you're there when I get out, I'll spend the rest of my life showing you what that love really means. Yours, Ronan. Alina folded the letter carefully, tucking it into the box where she kept all the pieces of their story. The photo she'd taken that started everything. Restaurant receipts from their early dates. The card from the flowers he'd sent. All the fragments of a love that shouldn't have survived, but somehow still did. She picked up a pen and began to write back. 5 years passed. Alina's photography studio flourished. She exhibited her work in galleries across the city, built a reputation for capturing raw, honest moments, vulnerability transformed into art. She dated briefly, twice, but neither relationship lasted. Her heart belonged to a man behind bars, and no amount of time seemed to change that. She visited Ronan monthly, watched him transform from the hard, guarded man she'd met into someone softer, more open. He earned degrees, led education programs, became a mentor to younger inmates. The empire he'd built was gone, liquidated to pay restitution. But the man who remained was someone she liked better than the one she'd first fallen for. Their letters numbered in the hundreds. Every day without fail, he wrote about his day, his thoughts, his dreams for when he got out. And every week she wrote back about her work, her mother's health, the life she was building while waiting for him. Then, on a crisp October morning, her phone rang with a number she didn't recognize. Alina Cross? Yes? This is the New York State Department of Corrections. Ronan Voss has been granted early parole. He's being released next week. Her heart stopped. What? His exemplary behavior and cooperation with ongoing investigations qualified him for early release. He'll be out Friday. Thought you'd want to know. The call ended and Alina sank onto her studio floor, laughter and tears mixing together. 5 years. Not 7. 5 years of waiting, and he was finally coming home. She spent the week preparing, deep cleaned her apartment, bought new sheets for the bed, cooked and recooked the meals she wanted to serve him, tried on a dozen outfits before settling on something simple, jeans and a sweater. The woman she'd become, not the girl he'd left behind. On Friday, she stood outside the correctional facility as the sun rose, watching the gates, waiting. And then he was there, older, leaner, his hair touched with gray at the temples. But his eyes, when they found hers across the parking lot, held the same intensity that had captured her 5 years ago. Ronan walked toward her slowly, as if afraid she might disappear. When he reached her, he stopped, his hands at his sides. "Hi," he said, his voice rough from emotion. "Hi." Alina's tears were already falling. "You're here. Where else would I be?" He pulled her into his arms, and they held each other in the morning light, 5 years of longing compressed into a single embrace. "You waited," he whispered against her hair. "I told you I would." They stood like that for a long time, neither ready to let go. Finally, Alina pulled back, studying his face. "Are you ready for this? For real life outside?" "I'm ready for you. Everything else we'll figure out together." She drove him to her apartment, the same building where this had all started, though she'd moved to a larger unit. He moved through the space carefully, taking in her photographs on the walls, the life she'd built. "You did it," he said, studying an exhibition poster with her name on it. "Everything you always wanted." "Not everything. Not yet." He turned to face her, and the question in his eyes was clear. I'm still in, Alina said. If you are, but we start over. Clean slate. Build something real this time. No secrets? No secrets. No empire? No empire. Just us. Ronan crossed to her, his hands gentle as they framed her face. I don't deserve you. You're right, but you're stuck with me anyway. He kissed her then, and it felt like coming home, like 5 years dissolved into nothing. Like every letter, every visit, every moment of waiting had led to this. That night they lay in her bed, wrapped around each other, talking until dawn. About his time inside, about her business, about the future they wanted to build. I got a job, Ronan said. Start Monday. Working for a nonprofit that helps former inmates reintegrate. It's not glamorous, but it's honest. It's perfect. I sold everything that was left of my old business. Put it all in a trust for Marcus Reeves's daughter. She's starting college next year. Alina's throat tightened. You did that? I did a lot of thinking in prison about the man I was and the man I want to be, and I realized that the only way forward is to make amends for the past. What about us? What do you want for us? He was quiet for a moment, his fingers tracing patterns on her skin. Then he reached into his pocket, pulling out a small box. I bought this the day before I turned myself in, carried it through processing, through my sentencing, through 5 years inside. They gave it back to me this morning. He opened the box, revealing a simple platinum band with a single diamond. It's not expensive, not like what I would have bought when I had money, but it's honest. And it's real. Alina's breath caught. I know it's fast, Ronan continued. I know we should take time to rebuild, but I've spent 5 years knowing exactly what I want. And it's you. It's always been you. He met her eyes. Alina Cross, will you marry me? She should have said they needed more time, should have suggested waiting until he was more settled, until they'd navigated the challenges of his re-entry. But 5 years of waiting had taught her something essential. Life was short. Love was rare. And when you found both together, you didn't let them slip away. Yes, she whispered. Yes, I'll marry you. He slipped the ring onto her finger, and they kissed in the darkness, sealing a promise that had survived prison and doubt and every obstacle the world had thrown at them. 3 months later, they married in a small ceremony in Vermont, in her mother's garden where she'd first learned what home felt like. No press, no spectacle, just family and friends who'd stood by them through the hardest years. Ronan worked at the nonprofit, slowly building a reputation in a completely different world. Alina's photography career soared, her exhibition of prison portraits, taken during her visits to Ronan, earning critical acclaim and opening conversations about redemption and second chances. They bought a small house in Brooklyn, nothing like the penthouse Ronan had owned before. It had a garden where Alina grew vegetables and a studio where she developed film. They adopted a rescue dog who slept between them at night. It was normal. Beautifully, perfectly normal. 2 years after his release, Alina was preparing for her largest exhibition yet when she found something wedged between old photo negatives. The original image she'd taken that night. The photo that had started everything. She held it up to the light, seeing the woman she'd been, broken, desperate, trying to feel powerful in the aftermath of humiliation. That woman felt like a stranger now. Ronan appeared in the doorway, coffee in hand. What's that? The photo, the one I sent you by mistake. He crossed to her, looking over her shoulder. You've come a long way from that night. We both have. Do you ever regret it? Sending that photo? Everything that followed? Alina thought about the question seriously. About the fear and the danger. About the investigations and the prison visits. About the 5 years they'd lost. No, she said finally. Because it led me to you, and everything we have now, this life, this love, this second chance, it was worth every hard moment. Ronan wrapped his arms around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. That photo showed me something I'd never seen before. Someone brave enough to be vulnerable, strong enough to choose risk over safety. That's who you've always been, Alina. That's who I fell in love with. She leaned back against him, the photo still in her hands. What should I do with it? Keep it, as a reminder of where we started, but maybe also create something new. something that shows where we ended up. That night, Alina set up her camera on a timer. She and Ronan stood in their small kitchen, his arms around her, both smiling. No fear in their eyes, no secrets between them. Just two people who'd found each other in the darkness and fought their way into the light. When the photo developed, she hung it next to the original. Before and after. Broken and whole. Lost and found. 6 months later, Alina discovered she was pregnant. They painted the second bedroom pale yellow, filled it with secondhand furniture and handmade quilts from her mother. Ronan read parenting books with the same focus he'd once given to financial reports. Their daughter was born in spring, with Ronan's dark hair and Alina's eyes. They named her Grace for the second chance they'd been given. Life wasn't perfect. Ronan still had nightmares about prison. Alina still struggled with trust. They fought about money and parenting and whose turn it was to walk the dog. Normal problems for normal people living a normal life. But on quiet evenings, when Grace was asleep and the city hummed beyond their windows, they'd sit together on the couch, Ronan's arm around Alina's shoulders, and remember the journey that brought them here. "I was thinking," Alina said one night, "about that first message you sent me. When I accidentally sent you the photo, what about it? You said everyone makes mistakes, but some are more interesting than others." Ronan smiled. "I remember." "Do you still think it was a mistake?" He turned to face her, his hand cupping her cheek. "No. I think it was the best accident that ever happened to both of us. A wrong number that turned into the rightest thing in my life. Even with everything we went through? Especially because of everything we went through, it made us who we are, made us strong enough to handle this." He gestured around their small house, their sleeping daughter, their quiet life. "This is what I was fighting for all along. I just didn't know it until you showed me." Alina kissed him, soft and sweet, a kiss that held years of struggle and love and hard-won peace. That night, as she lay in bed beside her husband, listening to their daughter's soft breathing through the baby monitor, Alina thought about the woman she'd been that night, broken by a public humiliation, desperate to feel powerful, making a reckless choice that would change everything. She'd sent a photo to a stranger, but that stranger had seen past the image to the person beneath, had chosen to know her, challenge her, love her through the worst and best of themselves. What had started as a mistake, a wrong tap on a phone screen, had become the defining choice of her life. Not because it was easy or safe or sensible, but because it was real. And in the end, that was all that mattered. The photo that was never meant to be sent had led her to a man who was never supposed to matter. Together, they'd built a life from the ashes of their worst mistakes. And it was beautiful. Years later, when Grace was old enough to ask about how her parents met, Alina would pull out that first photo, would tell her daughter about a night when the world felt too small and love felt impossible, about a message sent in pain that found a man who saw through the image to the truth beneath. She'd tell her about choices and consequences, about darkness and redemption, about love that survives even when survival seems impossible. And she'd say, with Ronan's hand in hers and a lifetime of evidence behind them, "Sometimes the biggest mistakes lead to the greatest love stories. You just have to be brave enough to see where they lead." Grace would study the photo, then look at her parents, older, grayer, but with eyes that still held the same fierce devotion. "So you're glad you sent it?" she'd ask. Alina would look at Ronan, seeing in his smile the journey they'd traveled together. From a penthouse to a prison, from broken to whole, from strangers to soulmates. "I'm glad I took the risk," she'd answer, "because some risks are worth everything." And in their small Brooklyn house, surrounded by photographs of a life well lived and love hard won, they'd hold each other close. Two people who'd found the extraordinary in an accidental message, who'd chosen each other through fire and fear, who'd proven that even the wrong choice, sent to the wrong number, can lead you exactly where you're meant to be. The end.